I'm delighted to have Natalie Burns with us. She started her own business. She is a self-made woman. She owns Homeschool Teaching Simplified, and she's a teaching strategist. So this is another, and it's not just a coach. I was like thinking, oh yeah, like a homeschool coach. No, no, no. Teaching strategist. And I like that because it helps us on that one piece that, like, as moms, we know all the things, parenting things, but the teaching part sometimes that's where we can get tripped up. So I think Natalie has some very good things for us to hear about tonight. So thank you for joining us, and let's welcome Natalie.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, when Hester said, I'd love to talk about how to teach math, I said, oh, well, you don't know my history with math. Because teaching math is one thing, me doing math was a whole other thing. I don't know about you, but in high school, when we had those uh, calculators that were programmable, you could play all sorts of games on there. Someone got us Super Mario Brothers, and I got so good at that during my math class that I still can give my children a run for their money on Nintendo, which is saying something, I think. And then as I went into university, I remember first year calculus I needed to do for my biology degree, and I was terrified. And I remember going to the professor at the end of the year and ready to beg on my knees, please pass me this math class. I went to every office hours. I tried so hard, and he said, well, let's just see where you're at. I was, oh, you have a C. And I was like, oh, I did it. I did it all by myself. I didn't even have to beg you to pass me. Oh, you're happy with that? Oh, I am very happy with that. I did it. And that shifted into then my PDP teaching training. And I had a teacher saying about how to teach math. And we would show up, you'd get a journal, and you'd write in your journal for the entire time. For 3 hours, you'd work on some ridiculously difficult question. And then you would never get the answer, and you'd hand it in, and you'd go home and just, oh, okay, well, that's what I did with my day. And I remember this one, like, coconut on a palm tree and the angles of things falling and me just wanting to go on vacation. And it was such a gong show, but I got an A in that class because that thing shifted. And when it came to how to teach math, he knew something really important. And that was that it wasn't about what the answers were. And we weren't handing in answers anymore. We're instead navigating through the process of learning math. And that was a really key moment for me. And I took that into when I started teaching grade 8, 9, and 10 math. I mostly taught biology and sciences, but I got to teach some math in there, and it became fun. And even things like multiplying polynomials, you know, what do I do with this FOIL method? You can learn it the night before quite quickly and quite easily if you understand the process of how to think about math and mathematics and how to speak about it, how to talk about it. And it became like easy breezy. And it's something that I have noticed a lot of families are missing because math shutdowns are a big deal. It's not something you notice in all of the subject areas. You've got opinions in English language arts, and you get to discover in science, but in math, it's like you're right or you're wrong, and there's judgment, and really you're exposed if you don't know what's going on. And so the classic way of teaching about math has been absolutely terrifying for that exposure. And so that's something that I want you to notice, that if you're feeling like math is the hardest subject in your homeschool, it's okay. It is different, and how we approach it, how we talk about it, how we want to go about things is going to shift the way that our children actually end up responding. Yeah. So, nice to see you. So I was just saying the old way is all about right versus wrong answers. This is how you do it. And we can even get caught up in that, right? When we say, okay, well, I just realized that my son was learning long division as I was writing this. And I was like, wait, is this the first time I'm teaching you long division? Oh, we get to like put it into practice here. Because what we want to do is say, here are all the steps that you need to do. You just copy and paste it, and it will magically happen for you because you did what you were told to do, right? And yet there's still tears, there's still fighting, there's still pushback, there's still meltdowns, a volcanic eruption in some instances. But if we can focus on, okay, what is the understanding that we need to know about how the numbers work here, then they can start to put things into place. And it's almost like you've given some Velcro in the mind for that information to stick to, and it makes more sense for them. So, the new way that I'd love for you to leave thinking about this here is that it's not so much results driven, but we're looking at the process and really honoring our children's process and thinking and learning about math. Because I don't know about you, but I know that when I started homeschooling, I did not think, oh, yay, we're going to deal with math meltdowns every day. That's not what I wanted. What I really wanted was to see that fear that I had that led me to avoid doing my work and instead like have to go see a tutor because I was doing Super Mario Brothers on my calculator, right? That fear that was driving avoidance, then I didn't want to pass that down to my children. And I figured, oh, well, if I step into my role as the teacher now, and you are totally welcome to come take a picture with this after I'm feeling up for it. Because we think, oh, well, if I do things differently, I bring them home, then it's going to be automatically different and we won't trigger these things. And yet somehow these fears are still triggered and we're still noticing this. So what we really want is to have math without fear. We want to have that confidence blossom in who they are and not what their abilities are and how good they are or how fast they are, because often this idea of math and how fast you can do it is associated with intelligence. And so we want to see them really flourish in their own personal identity and then bring in an understanding of math. And so we can have emotional support, emotional relationships, strong uh, unity in our families, and still actually teach academics and do math at the same time. You don't need to swap one for the other. So I'm going to show you how today you can do that, because a lot of times people go, well, if I just stop doing math for a couple weeks, everything's better. So, like, what's the answer here? So, we can have the best of both worlds and have that emotional connection and academics still going at the same time. Okay, so the problem is, though, that we tend to lean onto these like false narratives and ways of thinking about things. One of them being that if you have more repetition, more practice, if you have more worksheets, or you spend more time, and if you just do it more and more and more, it will eventually drill in and it will happen. And I know people that have been going over the multiplication tables with their children for a whole year before it finally clicks in. And that's, I think, goes to show that that repetition is not happening. Something else has changed over time. I personally have some ideas, and I can get background to that after. And this repetition and this idea of, like, I see children coming out from the Kumon, different after school support. And I did Kumon myself. And I think there's a place for rote math learning. My children do math worksheets as well. But that idea as the savior of what's going to help your child finally feel emotionally resilient isn't going to work. Because more pressure really just equates to more fear. And the more fear that our children have, the less they're going to be able to actually think about what's happening. We all know how it is. As soon as you are startled by something, you're in automatic mode. All thinking turns off, and it's just impossible to go through something difficult and a challenge in that moment. So instead of looking at these repetitive processes, I want you to know that we are going to find a way that this is not going to damage your relationship at the same time. And we can shift over instead to thinking about how you can actually use your communication to just calm everything down. And so there are a couple of ways. My favorite, let me just make sure I have this one here. Yeah, my favorite is to really help our children with the language around what it means to be results driven versus what it means to be process driven. So if you're asking your child, like, what's the right answer here? Or did you get it right when you did it? Check your own answers. Did you get it right? That can seem like nonchalant and like, oh, we're just gonna put the ball in your court. Like you can check your own answers. But it's not actually nonchalant. It makes them feel that this is a right and wrong issue. This is very a judgmental issue. And then if they're not getting it right, then they're failing now. And often the way we talk about things, we might be saying things like, oh, well, I'm just not good at math, but you can be good at math. And they get this language that some people are good at math and other people are not good at math. And this dichotomy can be really damaging because as soon as something gets challenging, they start to sink into, well, I must not do that because it's hard and I don't know what I'm doing. And so, if we can shift our thinking to be about the struggle and the wrestle, or that it's okay to have challenges, then it creates this permission slip for them to go, okay, like I don't get it right now, but it's not about getting it. It's about working through it and wrestling with the unknown. So really, math is not so much a confidence issue. It's an ability to hold space for the unknown. Can your child actually not know what's going on and not freak out about it at the same time? Right? Oh, that's a wrestle for all of us. I don't like that one. I don't pray for that. But it's already happened anyways. So we just naturally we need to learn how to wrestle with not fully understanding something and yet embracing the process of what's in front of us. And so that is a big language shift that can really help our children. I had, well, really what it comes down to, I would say, is emotional resiliency. And it's this bounce back ability. And I really wish I coined that term, but it was one of the women inside of our teaching inspired membership that coined that. She was talking about bounce back ability as her way of expressing resiliency. Like if you were to take a pool noodle and push it down, and then when you let go, it just pops right back up. That is what we want for children when they face these hard moments. We want them to be able to bounce back up. And one of the things that I provided were some prompts for communication and what you can say in these tricky homeschool teaching moments. And one of the moms inside the membership said, I was really struggling with my child. He just kept saying, I can't think straight. I can't think straight. I can't do it. I can't think straight. And I said, okay, well, let's dig into that phrase right there, because that right there is a belief system that he holds about himself and his learning. And everything that comes in is going to be filtered through this belief system of, well, I can't think straight. And so I said, here's some prompts that you can use for how you can help him change his own negative self-talk and how you can help promote the way he thinks about himself. And she came back the next week. She said, I use those prompts and I never heard him say that phrase, I can't think straight, ever again. It just completely dropped off the ledge, stopped. And she said, in fact, I went to go help him and he goes, oh, no, it's okay, mom. I'll get it. Just give me time and I'll get it myself. And she said, it was just like a complete 180 from such a seemingly simple shift of the language that you hold around ability and the wrestle. Because if we talk about this like it's an ability level and we need to get you up to this level and you're behind and it's not good enough and all of these ideas, even if we don't necessarily explicitly say it, but we feel it and it oozes out of us, then our children start to feel that way as well. And then that puts a pressure band around learning, and learning doesn't happen. And there's a lot of stress involved. So, what we really want to do is then change our own mindsets around what it means to learn math and what it means to think about teaching and learning. And when we can change our own mindsets, then our children can actually line up with us. And we were just talking about newborn babies right before this. And when a newborn baby is crying, what do? You hold them. And when you bring that child up to your chest, they feel your heartbeat. They feel you're usually stressed out too, but what do? You take deep breaths so that you can calm yourself down. And then you go, okay, honey, like you match yourself to me and I'm going to do deep breaths, slow breathing, nice calm, and you calm down too. And it's, I think, a brilliant strategy that we can still be using today. And so when my children are freaking out, because it's natural that we all freak out when something is hard, when my children freak out, I do that strategy still today. I get a little closer so they feel me with them. And I take a few deep breaths to make sure that I'm not sitting in the pit with them. And instead, I can actually wrap my arm like a wing and have them under. And I take a few deep breaths and I say, okay, let's break it down. Where are you stuck? What's going on? And or even let's just take a pause and regroup here for a minute. Because what happens when somebody gets stressed out is your brain kind of switches gears into what part is lighting up. And so you've got your amygdala at the back, your limbic survival response that is all about fight or flight, or also freeze or fawn. So if you see your child just like zoning out or changing the subject to like how cute penguins are, then you know that's also a fight or flight response, or throwing up their hoodie or crying or yelling at you, things like that. All of these shutdown moments, that is fight or flight kicked in. And if the brain goes into this fight or flight mode, then it actually cannot now do this thinking process anymore. And so in order to keep thinking online, you have to keep their brain from entering into fight or flight mode, which might be easier said than done on occasions. But you have a lot of power and you have a lot of influence as a teacher now in your homeschool, that you get to set up an environment differently than they would experience in the classroom. If they're freaking out in the classroom, they don't want to be exposed and judged and shamed by everybody else. They're going to be like a chicken and just fake it and pretend. Any of you have chickens, they do not tell you when they're hurting. And so they might do that and hide and then come home and you go, well, you don't know what you're doing. Like, what's going on? But in our homeschools, we have a totally different privilege in that we get to be part of the process with them. And we get to help them co-regulate that process until they're actually ready to regulate that for themselves. And so if we can take our brains out of fight or flight and back into thinking mode, then we can show our children how to do that for themselves. And the key to doing that is by changing the meaning you ascribe to that moment. So if you feel like, well, now I'm going to be judged by my HLST because I didn't get this worksheet done today and they needed it done before the term end. Or now when the family members at the next gathering are going to ask about multiplication facts, they're not going to know it. Or now our homeschool co-op that we're in is going to be moving on to the next thing and my child didn't figure this out yet and they might be embarrassed. And that's going to reflect that on me. And then I'm going to be embarrassed in front of my friends and I'm going to be judged and I'm not good enough at this. And maybe I shouldn't do this because it's ruining a relationship. Right? So if that's the meaning you give to that moment, that's super stressful. And it's no wonder that we're getting riled up as well. But if we can change that idea of, oh, actually, this isn't about me. This is about their challenge with the process right here and right now. And it makes sense because learning is really challenging. So it makes sense that they're going to be struggling with that in that moment. And we're just going to walk through it. And we're going to look at what strategies work for you. We're going to take it from different angles, different multiple intelligences. We're going to try manipulatives. We're going to get some resources on board, try a game to get this concept nailed down. And changing the meaning that you give can change everything in your body. I mean, think about when you ever drive up to a red light and you're late and you're like, oh, I really wish I could through that light. What goes through your mind in that moment? It's typically, right? It's typically like, I'm going to be late. Now they're going to be mad at me and I'm going to have to speed and I hope I don't get a ticket. And everything is like unraveled and falling apart. Or somebody in the car right behind you might be thinking, oh, a red light. I wonder if that changes the dynamics and maybe I just avoided a car accident today. Okay, oh well, let's just go with it. And so one person's going to be all riled up. The other person's going to be calm, but it's the same red light. Right? It doesn't really matter what the circumstances are. It matters how you perceive those circumstances. So if we can give ourselves permission to say, maybe it's okay if it takes a little bit longer for them to figure out this thing. And maybe it's okay if they don't know it right away or have to do it 6 different ways before I get a glimpse of maybe some hope here. That doesn't mean you're failing and it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It just means that you're literally navigating the process of helping them understand how they learn. And it's not taking away from the actual mathematical learning, because we all have like the deadlines. Unless you're registered, we have deadlines of things that we need to like show by the end of the year. But it's not taking away from it, because you're teaching them how to think about math at the same time. And if they can think about math and stay in that front thinking part of their brain and stay calm, cool, collected, then that is a huge win for anything that they want to approach moving forward. But if they are copy and pasting and constantly in a fight or flight state, then that's not actually meeting the goals that we want, right? It's not actually really helping them develop these lifelong strategies where they want to figure out their own financial literacy going forward. They want to double check their receipts and make sure, instead of just being like, I just trust that person because they probably know, right? So, one of the things actually that comes to my mind that I'd love to add in here, I was talking to my mentor last night, and I was talking about like specifically pain and how it can be so distracting from things that you actually value and want to do. And he said, you're putting your like your purpose and value in what you can do. And instead, you need to remember that you've already achieved your purpose just by being who you were created to be. That is your purpose. And everything else is just what you want. And so I think we need to remember that a little bit at the same time with our children for math, that sometimes we can feel like things need to be done on a certain timeline, but we forget that every province and every state and every country has different timelines of what they expect to be learned at what age levels or ability levels. And so eventually our children, if we teach them how to think and how to learn, they can figure it out. Judy Arnell, actually, she is the Alberta president of their homeschool association. She was telling me a story about her son. They're an unschooling family, and all her children are graduated and older now in their 20s. And he had such a trouble with long division that she just gave up. She said, "Forget it. I'm not doing long division," and she didn't. And he graduated not knowing long division. She said it was fine, but then he started tutoring a young man who needed to learn long division. He goes, "Mom, like, I have to teach this kid long division tomorrow." And she goes, "Well, what are you going to do?" He goes, "I guess I'm going to learn it tonight." And he did. That's 20 years old. He decided he was going to learn long division that night. Exactly. So he needed motivation for why it would be important for him. He needed maybe time for his brain to mature in certain areas. Maybe he needed other connections to happen in other areas to make this an ability for him. Or maybe he needed to overcome certain fears and beliefs about his ability before he could tackle it again. And so I think that this could be an encouragement to us as homeschooling moms, that if we will keep doing our math, like rote learning, it's okay. And yet also we can do it in a relaxed way. We don't have to have this pressure band around learning and expectations that things need to happen faster, because we cannot make these light bulb moments happen in our children's minds. Only they can do that light bulb moment for themselves. So let's talk about like some of the how to like tips then for this kind of thing. I like to talk about like band-aid type fixes, and then like the deeper inner work kind of fixes. So the band-aid fix is mostly around communication. We kind of touched on this, but I do have something for you. And you can either pass around or you can check this out later. It's say this, not that, scripts for tricky homeschool teaching moments. It's a free download. It will just go to your email, and then you can pass around if you want to. And basically it goes through different things that you can say in different moments. So there's 3+1 categories for different kinds of moments that you'll encounter with your child. And it gives you little prompts that are fridge worthy. You can actually stick them on a magnet up on your fridge. And we've had a magnet on my fridge for my husband. And it's worked out really well. Yeah. And so it helps them diffuse frustration, help bring learning back online, help keep the environment light, airy, free, and about curiosity and connection rather than like the meltdown moment. So that's the first thing you can do. And then you can look at, and I gave the example, I think earlier of, did you get it right versus, let's see, how did you get to that answer? Or, yeah, I'm not going to try to like memorize something right now. I'll move forward. But some of the other things I wanted to mention, noteworthy, are how you go about framing and setting up the environment for math. So we have so many great options in the bookstore for so many different types of learning styles and angles that you can approach. And so really you can make adjustments for your child and personalize it no matter what curriculum you already have. Worksheets can be great in some instances, and in other instances, they can be like totally terrifying to children. I've heard of people that take a worksheet and then they cut it up and spread it out around the house, or even do like a scavenger hunt. So then you're just doing like a third of that paper at a time, and it feels like less, even though you're still getting the same amount accomplished in that day. So there's that. There's also different manipulatives. Remember that if you're teaching addition, you can get a couple of big dice and throw those on the ground and add or multiply or divide those dice or subtract. And you can play with these things. There's so many different board games out there. And shout out to Sarah, who just created the a gameofsomething.com, and she has collected so many different mathematical board games that you can use. And they have like a rental system, kind of like Blockbuster used to do. And so you can rent these board games for the weekend and use that for your mathematical understanding. There are board games designed for dysgraphia, which is really helpful, or dyslexia. So they have like kits in the way that they're set up. So you can look up all sorts of ways that you can tackle different kinds of learning needs. And then remember that your language about it is key. It is number one. Talking about it from a relaxed perspective, talking about it from an ownership perspective, that it's their learning if they need a break. Actually, that reminds me, we talked about ADHD not long ago. I saw a really interesting reel where some doctor guy was talking about the thing with ADHD. If you give your child extra time, it can feel like a terrible sentence because extra time, if they don't really conceptualize how long time is passing, it can be burdensome in that way. So instead of giving them extra time to do things, if you give them like a stopwatch timer and say, okay, you have 30 minutes, that's all you're doing for your math today, and you get as much done in this 30 minutes, but you just stop the timer anytime you need to get up, go to the bathroom, look out the window, whatever it is, and then you sit down and you start it again. And then, okay, you need to stop, you stop it again, and then you start it again. And it gives them that autonomy, that they're focused when they're focused, but then they have freedom to escape. Actually, I think that can work with all learning styles. I would actually like to incorporate that in my own work. And the beautiful thing about that is you obviously are going to have to still schedule an hour for yourself. Knowing is not actually taking half an hour, but it gives them a little bit more of the freedom of the process, and it takes that pressure band around timing right off the table. And anytime you can identify what is it that my child freaks out about, if I say time speed drill, do they burst into tears? Take away the timer.
Super stressful.
Just take away the timer and say,
great, we'll be done.
yeah, I know.
Nope. The end of the world.
Yeah, then that happened with me too.
Right. Then you lose.
So you think that this is the old story, right? You think that it's going to be great to say, oh, it's just 1 minute, just as many as you can in 1 minute, no pressure. But the pressure is so strong that it's causing a complete meltdown in that moment. So take the pressure away. You have autonomy. You're the teacher now. You can do this however you want. You don't have to do a timer for a time speed drill. You could, if they have 9 questions, and you can ask them just to do 5. If they get the concept, let them move on. It's kind of like video games. If they achieve the goals, they move on to the next level. If they fail and they fall off the cliff, then they go back to the beginning of the level and they try it again until they get it, and then they move on. So it's not that you necessarily have to complete everything that's in front of you or everything that you purchase. Actually, I think we should normalize not feeling pressure to complete everything that we purchase, but instead look at, when has my child shown me that they get it? And let's let them move on here. And you might notice as your children get older through the years that we spiral back to these concepts over and over and over again. So they're going to hit that again. It's okay if you want to say, you know it pretty well here. Let's push a pause button on measurement and liquid measurement, and we'll hit it again next year. No problem. And that's totally allowed. Teachers do that all the time too. So it's okay. You can do like a week-long unit and then not touch it again until next year, knowing that you will hit that over and over, because we have these categories of mathematical thinking in our area. Okay, so where was I? Yeah. I think I shared with you all of the little tips I wanted to say. Yeah. So we all know then that the hardest part of math is not that stuff. It's not math. The hardest part of math is never math. It is all about how we deal with our children struggling with learning. It's how we watch them be challenged and start to melt down without feeling like we have to rescue them and save them. And so I want to give you some encouragement here, because this is the ultimate challenge for us as homeschooling moms. It's not about math, it's about how we come alongside our children in the process of their learning. And in order to have an actual resilient mathematical learner, they're going to need opportunities to bounce back. And sometimes that means like feeling like they're being pushed under a little bit, and then they get to bounce back. And we are there, and you have a unique insight into what they're going through and how this is going for them, that you get to pray for them in a unique way that nobody else understands. And so that's an encouragement in this whole idea that our emotional tone sets the temperature in the room. And so if you notice that you're getting rough and you notice that your buttons are being pushed, then that's a really nice opportunity for you to dig deep into that and go, okay, why am I getting upset because they don't like the nine times tables? Like, what is it about that? Is it taking me back to grade 4? Is it that it's hard for me to watch them struggle because I take on that burden for myself? Is it that I don't feel like I'm doing a good enough job at homeschooling, and this is exposing that for me? So when we can take a moment and sit back and notice, why is everybody getting upset? Are we getting upset over the same thing? Are we getting upset over different things? How can I regulate myself in this moment? And then how can I help you regulate in this moment? That is going to be the ultimate challenge when it comes to teaching math, because once you can actually master that, you can set the tone and shift everything in your whole homeschool, but especially math lessons. So using these little tips and tricks of communication, language, giving yourself permission to change things up, cut up the worksheet, use manipulatives, games, go on field trips, do online kind of interactive kind of stuff. Give yourself permission to change the game a little bit here. And then underneath that Band-Aid fix, you're going to do the deep inner feeling work at the same time. And as you do that, you notice that things about math start to shift. You notice your child's confidence starts to increase. There's security. They're no longer putting their identity in their abilities, but you see them start to show you their identity in just who they are, secured, valued, whole as a person. And you see that meltdown, pushback, fighting really dial down. I mean, I was watching these reels where they showed people teaching in their homeschool, and then they turn off the fancy music on top, and then it's like, honestly, like there are moments like that, but generally in my homeschool, it's not like that. It is generally calm because when I hear or I see the tears welling up, I press that pause button. And I go, what is it here right now? What is it that you're struggling with? What are you afraid of? And sometimes it can be as simple as this is new and I don't know what's going to happen next. And so if you can say, and so in that way, I guess showing them the step-by-step process can be helpful. This is how it's going to go. And we kind of like that too in our lives, right? Like you just show me what's going to be happening next week and then I'll be better. I'll be able to handle it if I feel secure about what's on the schedule. And so you can have this calm environment where you're connected relationally and mathematics still happen, right? This dysregulated dynamic can change, and your child can start to really flourish in letting their light and truth shine out into a world that desperately is looking for that truth. And you have every opportunity to let go of that yourselves and be unburdened by this. I mean, we were meant to live a life unburdened. And so as we go through teaching math, we get to look at how we get to do things different as the teacher now. And so I do want to invite you, come on up here at the end, take a photo with it. It's fun. You can post it, you can tag me, or just keep it to yourself. Doesn't matter. The point is that it's fun, and yet it's more than that. It's something that I would love for you to look back in your phone as the memories come up all the time. I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember this moment where you realize that you have this impact on your child in a special way that nobody else does. And you are able to give them opportunities to rewrite even their own future and change the story of what they've been telling themselves up to this point. And not a lot of people are going to notice the little shifts that happen in math, but your children will. They're going to notice that peace and that presence that you bring because you had the courage and the confidence to go first. And you had the courage and confidence to show up as their teacher now. Thank you so much for listening. You.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I would like to open it up to any questions. I'm sure we have so many questions. Everything you said, it just rings so true. One of the conversations that I've sort of cultivated with my children is like when I say, okay, it's time, 5 more minutes, and then we're going to move into math, that'll typically turn into like major math, right? And so we start having conversations like, okay, so what are you doing right now? Well, I'm building my Lego truck. Okay, do you want to finish that before we go move into the math lesson? Well, I'm so close, and it's okay. How many minutes do you need to finish what you're doing before you want to sit down to do math? And like you said, it's like it's almost a mind. It's a frame of mind because once we say, okay, 5 minutes to finish that, and then we move into math, we have no problem. My children love math, and we'll have that conversation. I'll be like, you love math, you're good at math. That's not the problem. The problem is moving from what you're doing to moving into the math. So everything you said is very true. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
My daughter and I argue sometimes often with her. It's interesting because it's like a love hate thing for her. If she gets it, she's like, "This is the best thing ever," and if she doesn't get it, it's like, "Oh, it's just miserable." But I find in those moments where when she's saying she doesn't get it, and she's like, "This doesn't make any sense." If I walk away, she gets it. She doesn't, and so then like But then I walk away and she's crying while she's doing it. Am I damaging her? Like, am I teaching her resilience? Am I showing her that she is capable? But it's just,
Right.
it feels sad. But then when I come to her and then I'm like, you did it. And then it's fine. But she cried the whole time.
Yeah.
So like, what's the balance there?
Oh, that's a really good question. Oh, it's blinking. I don't know. If
It's fine, it's fine.
It's fine. That's a really good question because I think that it's one of those balances in the moment. And one day it might be the answer is one, and the other day it might be the answer is the other one. Or it might be that you need to give her that comfort, but at a different time so that she still feels comforted. And it sounds like she needs the autonomy.
She needs the autonomy, but she
Yeah.
doesn't realize she needs the autonomy.
But she kind of wants it because when she's left
Yeah.
alone, she does it. So even if she's crying, if it's at a low level, then I think
It's manageable.
it's manageable. But once it's like, tears streaming on her papers and it seems like it's damaging, then like bringing something into the room or asking her what she needs to feel supported in that moment. Because it might even be like a cup of tea. Like, oh, that feels warm and like I have something with me, but I don't want you. But I have something.
Usually, like I've done that, and she wants funny.
Right.
Yeah. So
So
like, you want comfort, and you're getting it from
I
funny.
know. Yeah, and there's so many other aspects that come into play, especially as our children go through hormonal shifts, as we go through hormonal shifts, like long-term and monthly. And so there can be times where it feels easier to want to connect with them. And then there are times where it's going to feel easier to just be like, you got it.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't say that you're damaging your child by saying, you're going to need to do this on your own for a minute. I'll come back and check on you, or just sit with it for a second, or go for a walk to the bathroom and then come back and just think about it. I think all of the strategies can be played with on an individual basis. And then keeping in mind the underlying conversations that you like with the scripts and the language that you have around it. Like, yes, it's new. New things are hard, and that's why it's called learning. And, just kind of encouraging that aspect. And yet also, you've done this before. You can do hard things. And really, if they can pick up harmful belief systems, and we can really instill some good belief systems too, through like our language and who we tell them that they are. And so I would just continue to build up all around. Yeah.
For the most part, we do.
Yeah.
I learned this past week, I don't know if this is going to be helpful or harmful, but I learned this past week, for every time we do a bad habit, we need to replace it with a good habit 12 times to undo what it does to our brain that one time we did that bad habit. And I think I took that to heart as a mom and a teacher, because for the amounts of times where I was like, I just can't. You're going to have to figure this math out yourself. I'm like, I could have done better. So now I'm like, okay, we're going to do 12 positive reinforcements, 12 showing up, right? So it takes time, but it can be done. The point is, it can be done.
And that reminds me of like a Band-Aid fix strategy.
Yeah.
And then the underlying one would be, if I have no grace for my child, do I have grace for myself?
Yeah.
And so that first work can really help in that moment, not letting that just explode and, oh no, how did that come out of me again?
Yeah. You got to work on yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
What if my brain isn't understanding her process? Like she can I know how to get the right answer. I don't always understand how I get there. I watch her try to get there and she'll get the right answer and then she'll explain it to me if she's able to. And she's adding things and creating this whole story. I'm like, but that's not how you're supposed to do it.
Right.
And then that's only half the time. The other half she gets it wrong. And I'm like, no, follow the instructions. But then she's like, no, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to follow instructions.
You know what is crazy is that math typically is seen as like this right and wrong answer subject, and yet there's often multiple ways to get to the right answer. Sometimes there's more than one right answer. And then in problem solving in life, what we're really building them up for is sometimes there's no right answer at all. And so really it's that process. If she feels confident that this works for her in her mind, especially the storytelling.
She's only grade 3.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, and she might always have a background story.
Yeah.
As she's doing like Coast 10 and she's thinking about the people on the pirate ship or something, you know,
Yeah.
like it might always be like that. And that is okay if we don't always get it because you're not the one taking that.
No.
But it can be really hard to feel like we are connected to them and able to help them through it, or even knowing if they got it right. Say you don't have an answer key. Actually, there is a Math GPT where you can take a picture of the work and it tells you what all the answers are.
Yeah, I'm aware of this one. Don't ask me.
You can find it before your children do.
And don't tell them you use it.
Yeah. And so I would encourage you that it is great that we all think differently. We need that, like, because then when you go to an escape room with your friends, you work together really well.
So with that, I'm resonating with this long division story. I'm strong in math. My kids are strong in math. They are not here for carrying the ones because they can do it in their head.
Right.
So we've got like 2 3-digit numbers and he can give me the answer verbally right now, but heck no, is he gonna write it down? And heck no, is he gonna write that one up there?
Yeah.
So I have him stuck like a grade back because I'm like, you have to show me you can write down a 1 and you can carry it. But does he?
No.
I don't know. Like, he's strong in it, but I also know that like it's gonna bite him in long division, but maybe he'll be better at
Maybe.
division too, right? Like
maybe not.
right. So I'm just like, how much of this fitting in the box do we need? Because I know very intimately there are many ways to get an answer, and I do it in my head too, and I hated it in school too. And I got the right answers, and he is as well. So it's like, how much are we forcing forms, I guess, and how much, yeah,
First-
and which ones matter.
Yeah, I agree with the head shake. First thing I would say is you really want to make sure that your child isn't just looking at the answer key and
Oh no,
writing
we
it.
don't even own the
So
answer key.
sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait a sec.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for the last
Yeah.
like 3 weeks. So if that is an issue, you just
Yeah.
got to make sure first of all that they actually are doing them in the math.
Mhm.
And if they are doing them in the math, I would say it's okay.
Mhm.
However, I would start the journey on what is communication.
Mhm.
Because if they are not communicating how they got there, then if they want to publish a paper
Yeah.
later on how they engineered this amazing new steering wheel,
Yeah.
and they're not showing how they did it because it's just in their head,
Mhm.
well, then nobody else can recreate that. And so,
And you can't find where the little problem was. In
you
your
know what
whole-
might be a fun thing is if you gave them a recipe with some things missing because you just know,
Mhm.
like you just say put flour, but not say how much. Yeah. And so I just think that's a little bit of like a lesson and why we show
Mhm.
these things, and then
Yeah.
encourage that it doesn't take that much time. But like
Yeah.
in these things, I don't care, don't do it. But maybe one question every time you show me
Yeah.
the full thing.
Well, and I'm sort of getting him on side by like circling here and there where we're gonna do it. We barely use like a
Yeah.
quarter of the book, right? Because
Yeah.
he doesn't need that one. But yeah, I also listened to 1,000 Hours Outside, lady. You're
Ginny.
homeschooling. You're doing it right just by doing it. But the best part for me, that takeaway with the book was like this discomfort between what your child knows and what you know they know. And to me, that's carrying the one, right? So like, can I let go of that? And I can personally, I just don't know if some teacher along the way can as well. So I'm like,
The beauty
trying to
is you
figure
probably
that
have an HLST every year that you need to show
Mhm.
that to.
Right.
So you have them listen to him explain himself.
Mhm.
And then he
Yeah.
would say how it goes, and then they're like, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
that's okay.
Okay. Well, yes, go ahead. We'll do one more.
With one of my kiddos where there's a textbook and then a workbook, and how the textbook is your lesson, and then your workbook is your practice. And he went through the straight to the work. and then we'll come again. So I can go back to what to do, I don't know. And I can do it if I learn outside of him, but he just refuses to acknowledge that piece of his learning process. And it has been quite a source of tension.
Some people don't go linearly. About 20% of learners have to see the big picture at the end, and then they work backwards from there. So you'll see, like, even DIY people who are like, oh, I really like that bookshelf. I'm just gonna make it up myself. I'm just gonna do it. And if I get stuck, then I'll look up what I need. But I'm just gonna go for it. And so there are people that are just kind of like that. And I would say, let him grow it how he's thinking and really embrace that, even though it's not the way you think. And then in order to compromise for your own sanity, I would say we need to set a boundary here or a rule where you can go ahead and do it. And if you can figure it out along the way, that's great. But if you don't know what you're doing, you have to read it in your book first. And then you can come and see me. And then every time they come and see you, you say, what did your textbook say? And you just keep putting that ownership back, so that you can also avoid some of those patterns in upbringing where people kind of rely on other people to do work for them in all aspects of life, and then their future relationships and marriages and things. We still want to teach these skills. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, but I would also like enforce for your own sanity.
Okay, well, thank you, Natalie, so much for joining us this evening. It's been wonderful. Thank you. For coming. And I think, yes, if you want to know more about Natalie, what she does,